Alright, hello everyone, it's silverkyle, and today we're going to be talking about the last top 10 Wii U video games that could still potentially show up on the Nintendo Switch and essentially squeeze the last bit of life out of the Wii U in terms of exclusives. Because that's essentially what the Switch has done. This is everything that I own on the Wii U that have already been ported to the Nintendo Switch. And there's more than this. This is just what I own. And these are big games. These are big exclusives. Some of the biggest exclusives that we had on the Wii U at the time. Donkey Kong Country, New Super Mario Bros. U. Like, the name specifically is U, and they still ported it to the Switch. Lego City, I guess, maybe not. Pikmin 3, Mario Kart 8. Like, these are massive games that they ported over to the Switch and are essentially just slowly killing off what was the Wii U. I've never seen a console get ported so much in all my years of playing video games. It's crazy how much they've ported from the Wii U in such a short amount of time as well. That's the other thing too, right? It's just last gen. Wii U came out in what, 2012? It's not even 10 years yet. That's crazy. So anyway, we have 10 video games here. Now I don't think that really, there's a few of these games like in the bottom 10 that I don't think they stand a chance of actually getting ported because they have the like a sequel that's a superior version already on the Nintendo Switch. But these are still pretty big games on the Wii U that I really don't think that these are going to happen. These are more like just showing off the last few games of exclusives that are on the Wii U at the moment. So we're going to start off with number 10, and that is Super Smash Bros. For Wii U. I mean, we already have a Switch version of this, the Ultimate version. It's essentially, and really, Super Smash Bros. Are very, very similar. So there's really no reason to ever port this since we already have the upgraded version. Now, they could have made this first, ported this over to the Switch, and then made another one for the Nintendo Switch down the line. But because that they already made the Switch version, I don't think that that's going to actually happen. Same thing with Splatoon 1. Because we already have Splatoon 2 and Splatoon 3 is already on the way for the Nintendo Switch, so I really don't see this happening. But I really like the single player in this game. I mean, it's relatively short. It's like 4 or 5 hours long for the single player, and I preferred the multiplayer maps on this more than Splatoon 2. So if they ever did, I would probably pick this up because I do prefer it over Splatoon 2. We're gonna see about Splatoon 3. Same thing here with Super Mario Maker. We have the sequel of this on the Switch. Arguably the better version of this. I mean, so I don't really see this ever happening either, but it's a possibility. I guess Splatoon 2 actually should have been moved up to number 8 instead of number 9, but there you have it. Now, here's a game that is like the other ones where there is a sequel on the Switch, but because it's just a single player game, I think that there's maybe a bit more of a chance that they could eventually do this. We'll see. And that is Yoshi's Woolly World. So we do have the sequel of this on the Switch, but because it's a single-player game, and I think that they did make a version of this for the 3DS, I could see them eventually doing that also for the Nintendo Switch, maybe on like a Yoshi's Anniversary if they don't really have like another big game for Yoshi to put out. They could just easily port this, and it would do okay. The next one is a wild card. It's something that I would absolutely love if they could figure out how to put it on the Switch, and they could. There'd be a little bit more of digging around and fixing things to make it compatible for the Nintendo Switch, but I think it would be doable. And that is Nintendo Land. This was honestly one of my favorite games on the Wii U. I loved this game, but it is only a local game, local co-op multiplayer game. And the way that they could fix this is that there's a bunch of single player mini games, and they use the touchscreen and all that. I mean, the Wii U or the Switch does also have touchscreen, not as much as the Wii U did, but it's still there, and they could play around with that and tweak it a little bit. But the main meat of this game is the multiplayer games where you would be playing either together as a team or against each other. In multiplayer games where there would be 4 players on the screen, they could all see it on the TV, and then there would be 1/5 player on the gamepad that kind of sees things differently. Now, obviously, you wouldn't really be able to do that with just one Nintendo Switch, but if you linked 5 Switches up together, you could still have that experience. Or depending, if you wanted just 3 players, you could still do that with just 3 Nintendo Switches or 4 or 5, up 3 to 5, basically. And the other thing, too, is that they could add multiplayer, online multiplayer to this, which would be an insane amount of fun. I would have a blast playing this game. Like Mario Chase, Luigi's Ghost Mansion, and Animal Crossing Sweet Day online would be hilarious. Okay, next up is Kirby's Kirby. I don't want to say Canvas Curse because that's what it came out on the DS. Kirby and the Rainbow Curse. I could see this potentially happening because, you know, once again, we do have, you know, it is touchscreen. You just can't use a stylus on the Switch. So that is one negative, because that's kind of how you move Kirby around, is that you create these, the road, essentially, these lines that Kirby will follow. And that does have a chance that we could put that on the Switch. The other thing, too, is that it does allow for controllers, apparently. So, you know, you could use a controller as well to create this. I have no idea how that would actually work, because I never played that portion of it. One stylus, lots of ways to use. I think there's other mini games in here that's what would kind of cause that for that to happen. But still, you could potentially do that on the Nintendo Switch and figure it out. Now the other few here, this one I'm not going to put it in the same category as the others in terms of chances. This one still I think is kind of hard to do, but it's a single player game. Paper Mario Color Splash. This didn't get the greatest reviews. I mean, what Paper Mario game has since, you know, really the GameCube version. I mean, some people were kind of half and half with the Wii version, and then after that, it kind of just went all to hell, from what I gather. The best ones were the 64 and GameCube by far, and then after that, they just really haven't cared. But I could see them potentially still porting this, maybe, because they don't have a lot left. Now, the last three here, I think still have a very strong chance. If I was a betting person, I would bet against these ones, and I would bet that these three definitely have a chance, and I'm hoping that specifically the next two happen this year. Because if they don't, I don't know when they would. So it's going to be very interesting. And that is The Legend of Zelda, The Wind Waker HD, and The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess HD. Now, this is Zelda's 35th anniversary, so this is the perfect time for them to do that. But they haven't released anything yet. Granted, last year, when they were having the Super Mario 35th anniversary, they waited until September. So we're just a little bit away from September, about a week and a half now. So there's still a chance, I guess, that they could do this. And I don't understand why Nintendo wouldn't do this. For the 35th anniversary of Zelda, I think people would freak out for these two games, and they would also make a lot of money. You could combine them in a pack, you know, for the full retail price of one new video game. Or you could still probably release them separately for the full retail price, and they would still do fairly well. I mean, obviously fans would like these both to be together, but if Nintendo was really greedy, they could have them separately outside. And I don't know why they would just leave money like that on the table, especially on the 35th anniversary of Zelda when people are begging for more. It's an easy thing to do. They're already in HD. That was the hard part. Just make them available for the Switch now. We'll see if that happens. And the last video game that I see that still has a strong chance of being ported is Xenoblade Chronicles X. Now, I believe that this has a strong chance because it seems as though Nintendo is really backing the idea of Xenoblade Chronicles, because they ported the first Xenoblade Chronicles from the Wii onto the Switch. We have Xenoblade Chronicles 2. We have the DLC. Also, that ended up getting a physical release. Not really a physical release, but they ended up getting, like, you had a case for it and then a download code for it. So I still see that there's potentially a chance that they could release this maybe next year. I would feel like 2022 is a strong chance for this one, and the best chance for these two games would be this year. And everything else is just if they want to make a little bit more extra cash without having to make a new game for the Nintendo Switch, which has really served the Nintendo Switch well. You know, they sprinkled in, you know, a good amount of exclusives every year, and they ported over a few Wii U games every year. So they kind of had, like, you know, a lot bigger games that a lot of people were excited for, and they were like, oh yeah, hey, look at that game. I never got to play that on the Wii U because only 3 families in the whole world owned a Wii U. So, you know, a lot of people get to play these games for the first time. All right, that's enough Wii U bashing. I actually really like the Wii U, so don't take this the wrong way. I did enjoy my time a lot with it, and there's still the Virtual Console on there that kind of make it worth it at the same time. So there you have it. Thank you everyone for watching. You have been Bearded In. Let me know in the comments below what you think about these games, and if there's anything else that I missed that you think still have a strong chance of being ported over to the Nintendo Switch. Thanks again. Beardage.